Late last night, news broke that actor Alec Baldwin had a mishap on the set of his new movie that resulted in the passing of a cinematographer as well as injuring the director. According to reports, the tragedy took place after a prop gun was misfired. Mr. Baldwin is a co-producer on the 19th century western titled Rust that was filming in New Mexico at the Bonanza Creek Ranch outside of Santa Fe. However, filming had to be temporarily suspended after Alec fired off a prop gun that ended up taking the life of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. Santa Fe County deputies were alerted immediately and called to the scene. Ms. Hutchins was then airlifted to the University of New Mexico Hospital, where she would later succumb to her injuries. In a statement from the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office, they said, "The Sheriff's Office confirms that 2 individuals were shot on the set of Rust. Halyna Hutchins, 42, director of photography, and Joel Souza, 48, director, were shot when a prop firearm was discharged by Alec Baldwin, 63, producer and actor. Ms. Hutchins was transported via helicopter to University of New Mexico Hospital, where she was pronounced dead by medical personnel. Mr. Souza was transported by ambulance to Christus St. Vincent Regional Medical Center, where he is undergoing treatment for his injuries. This investigation remains open and active. No charges have been filed in regard to this incident, and witnesses continue to be interviewed by detectives." For those of you who don't know, Ms. Hutchins was from the Ukraine and grew up on a Soviet military base in the Arctic Circle. Later in life, she studied journalism in Kiev and film in Los Angeles. Plus, she was named as a rising star by the American Cinematographer magazine in 2019. In a statement, the Cinematographers Guild President John Lindley and Executive Director Rebecca Ryan said, "The details are unclear at this moment, but we are working to learn more, and we support a full investigation into this tragic event." The sad part about this unfortunate accident is that it's not even the first time that this has happened on set before. Back in 1993, Brandon Lee, who is the son of Bruce Lee, also lost his life on set after accidentally being shot with a prop gun for a scene in the movie The Crow. Later on, investigators determined that the weapon had been fired earlier on, causing a cartridge to become lodged in the barrel. Then when the blank rounds were added in and fired, it popped the cartridge that was stuck and released it with extreme force through the barrel, striking Brandon Lee. I'm assuming something similar may have happened on the set of Rust, but we will have to wait for confirmation from authorities to say for sure. Brandon Lee's sister Shannon also tweeted out her condolences to the family of Halyna Hutchins as well as Joel Souza, adding that this should never have to happen on a film set, and it does beg the question, if they are repeating mistakes from 1993, has the film industry changed their safety measures, or was this indeed just a freak accident? Like I said, it's hard to speculate right now. So far, we know that no one has been arrested in the incident and no charges have been filed. We also send our condolences as well to the family of Halyna Hutchins, Joel Souza, and anyone else that was involved in this unfortunate accident. Alec Baldwin is understandably distraught right now after a horrible accident that took place while filming the movie Rust in Santa Fe, New Mexico. News has just broke that there was actually a live round somehow still in the chamber of the prop weapon. Following all of the news about what took place on the set of Rust, Alec Baldwin tweeted out his condolences to the family of Halyna Hutchins and said, "There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred, and I am in touch with her husband, offering my support to him and his family. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna." Alec had accidentally taken the life of Halyna Hutchins, a 42-year-old married mother of 2 and director of photography on the film. The single round that was fired from the prop managed to strike both Hutchins and the movie's director, 48-year-old Joel Souza. According to a witness, the single bullet struck Halyna in the body and then pierced Joel's clavicle. Hutchins was then airlifted to the hospital but was later pronounced dead. Joel Souza was also rushed to hospital but was later released in the evening. According to the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees Local 44, they claimed in an email that the incident was an accidental weapons discharge, and then went on to say, "A live single round was accidentally fired on set by the principal actor, hitting both the director of photography, Local 600 member Halyna Hutchins, and director Joel Souza." Local 44 has confirmed that the prop set, decorations, special effects, and construction departments were staffed by New Mexico crew members. There were no Local 44 members on the call sheet. That first part, though, is the important part here. They confirmed that it was a live single round. Witness reports also told the press that Baldwin could be heard asking the people around him why he had been handed a hot gun, going on to say, "In all my years, I've never been handed a hot gun." And so far, the film's prop master has not been named, but the onus definitely will fall on them to explain why the prop was loaded with a live round. According to the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department, Alec has been cooperating with them with interviews and was released without being charged. The Local 44 is also shifting the blame towards the staff and crew members that were brought on in New Mexico, with Secretary-Treasurer Anthony Pollock saying in an email that no Local 44 members were on the call sheet. The production had employed 73 crew members, 22 principal actors, and 230 background talent, all from New Mexico, none of which were part of the union. What's wild here is that actor Jensen Ackles was just speaking about how little training he received before handling a prop weapon on set. He told a conference in Denver that he was able to even choose his own and then received a pretty haphazard training session. One thing is for certain though, the movie industry is most likely going to be making some big changes to how crew is staffed on projects so that incidents like this do not happen again. Perhaps even mandatory training with real professionals as well to avoid making even the slightest mistake. The tragic incident involving Alec Baldwin has shocked Hollywood and raised a number of concerns with on-set safety measures as well as what the legal process will be. The fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injury to director Souza caused the filming of the movie Rust to be put on hold as an investigation takes place. Things took a turn for the worst after Baldwin had fired off the prop weapon on the set of the 19th century western called Rust. For some reason, the prop had been loaded with live ammunition. According to court records, Alec had been under the impression that the prop was completely safe. They also added that he had been fully cooperating with the police. Although a lot of experts are now talking about the likelihood that he will face jail time. Santa Fe County Sheriff spokesperson Juan Rio said in a statement, "This investigation remains open and active. No charges have been filed in regard to this incident. Witnesses continue to be interviewed by detectives." And most experts believe that it is unlikely, but not entirely impossible, that he will face some sort of legal charges. Nancy Gertner, who is a senior lecturer at Harvard Law School, said that in order for there to be any criminal charges, they would have to prove that he intentionally took this woman's life, which seems unlikely based on the facts as we know them. Although Matthew Nash, who is an attorney at law, said that there could be a possible charge of involuntary manslaughter. This charge would only be possible if it were somehow proven that Alec was advised not to fire the weapon and then did so anyways. That sort of a charge could result in Alec Baldwin facing a max penalty of a fine of $5,000 or 18 months in jail. That being said, similar past incidents where this has happened before could be used again in this case. For example, in the death of Brandon Lee on the set of Crow in 1993, there were no charges filed. Now, criminal charges aside, according to Judge Gertner, she believes that a lawsuit is still possible. Gertner said in a statement, "Civil liability is different, and that really depends on facts we don't know yet. One question is, was there some negligence in the projectile that was used in the weapon, and who was negligent? There's also a question of whether there is protocol, so the handling of weapons that he may or may not have breached. Then there's the question of what the contract was. That would determine who's liable for what. The odds are that there would be insurance for civil issues." Because he's more than just an actor in this film, though, his role as a producer could perhaps make him more likely to face a lawsuit for negligence. In all likelihood, though, he will not be facing any criminal charges, and the production company will probably have to pay damages to Halyna Hutchins' family. In a statement on Twitter, Alec expressed his shock and sadness and said, "There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred, and I am in touch with her husband, offering my support to him and his family. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna." More disturbing details are coming out in regards to that horrific accident involving actor Alec Baldwin on the set of his new film called Rust. A search warrant has now revealed the heartbreaking final moments of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, as well as safety issues that caused union members to walk off set prior to all of this happening. Director Souza is now saying that Alec Baldwin was reportedly practicing removing his prop revolver from his holster and aiming it towards the camera during rehearsals for the movie Rust, when suddenly he heard what sounded like a whip and then a loud pop. According to the LA Times, who got their hands on newly released documents, Joel said that the prop was cleared as being cold, which meant that it did not have any live rounds in it. However, as we all know, that wasn't the case, and when it discharged, it struck Halyna Hutchins in the chest and hit Souza on his right shoulder. Hutchins was later pronounced dead at the Albuquerque hospital, and this tragedy took place after 6 members of the film's crew had already walked off the set, citing to production that there were issues regarding safety, payment, and housing. According to a text that was obtained by the media, one of the union members who walked off the set of the Baldwin-produced movie said, "The entire camera crew walked off that morning for that exact reason. Last night we each wrote resignation letters. We cited everything from lack of payment for 3 weeks, taking our hotels away despite asking for them in our deals, lack of COVID safety, and on top of that, poor weapon safety, poor on-set safety, period. We wrote about this exact issue last night and walked this morning because of it. That's not in any of the papers. They brought in 4 non-union guys to replace us and tried calling the cops on us. Only people that stayed were Halyna, the DP, and Reed, the B steady op. She had a kid, man, I can't believe it." And that day they actually ended up having to start late because the production had to scramble to find a replacement camera crew, and according to Joel Souza, they ended up only being able to work with one camera. According to the search warrant, aside from Alec Baldwin, 2 other people had handled the prop revolver for that scene, which included armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and then assistant director Dave Halls, who was the one to hand Baldwin the prop. Due to the COVID-19 protocols, the armorer had to set up 3 prop revolvers on a cart outside of the Bonanza Creek Ranch's church set. However, when Dave grabbed one of them, he claims to have not realized that there were any live rounds in the one that he had handed to Baldwin. Joel Souza also told the detectives that the cast and crew had taken a break for lunch, and when they returned from filming, he wasn't sure if the props had been checked again. The affidavit goes on to say, Joel said as far as he knows, no one gets checked for live ammunition on their person prior and after the scenes are being filmed. The only thing checked are the firearms to avoid live ammunition being in them. Joel stated that there should never be live rounds whatsoever near or around the scene. When they came back from their lunch, the cameras had to move again to a new angle because of shadows, and as Baldwin was explaining how he would be drawing the revolver, the prop just discharged. At the time, Joel was looking over Halyna's shoulder, and when the prop discharged, he saw Hutchins grab her midsection and then stumble backwards. She could be overheard saying that she couldn't feel her legs as people around her helped assist her to the ground. The worst part is that this isn't even the first time that the assistant director Dave Halls has had issues with safety on set. Back in 2019, he was apparently fired from the film called Freedom's Path after a crew member had a minor injury with a prop that had also unexpectedly discharged. According to some people who work in this industry, Halls has become known as the guy that you call when other people walk off citing safety issues. Director Courtney Hope Theronde said that on the film The Pale Door, when she was let go from that job, they brought Dave in to replace her. She goes on to tell the press, that's when they brought in Dave because he had a reputation for being lax on safety. Apparently, when the first AD walks off a project, Dave is known as the guy you call. At this point in time, the Santa Fe County authorities are still working to determine what kind of projectile took the life of Halyna Hutchins. Their spokesperson Juan Rio said on Monday that hopefully a ballistics and forensics team will be able to help them determine this, adding, the sheriff's office is looking at this case in a much greater scope as opposed to just the shooting that occurred on set and the loss of life. The investigators along with the sheriff's office are looking at everything that should have been followed from safety standards on down. It's starting to look like this was a perfect storm though for something to go wrong. You had crew members walking off the job, then add in the non-union crew members who just lacked experience, and top it off with an assistant director known for avoiding safety measures. Something bad was guaranteed to happen, and hopefully for the sake of Halyna Hutchins' family, they can get more answers as to who bears the most responsibility here. We can point fingers right now, but the right thing to do would be to wait for the police to finish their investigation.